You know that I'm a big fan of having students use photographs in the classroom in order to research and learn more about our history. So here is a way I'm going to show you today how we can change it up a little bit and get kids to think even more about some of these original primary source documents and photographs. So here you see a photograph of John Burns, who was the hero of Gettysburg, the old hero. And he is the only civilian to fight in the Battle of Gettysburg. And this photograph was taken, I believe, in July of 1863 by Timothy O'Sullivan. Here you can see he's sitting in his rocking chair. You can see his musket and his crutches from when he was wounded during the battle. And if I zoom in a little bit, just like I've shown you how to do before, we can see the stripes in his pants. We can see the detail in the wicker chair. We can see some plants over here and things that are going on inside the picture. And we've done that before. But how do we get this to come to life? Let's think about that for a minute and what we can ask kids. Well, what color do you think his pants are? What about the color of his skin or his hair? What about what's going on over here? What color would the ground be? Or his socks, or his musket? One of the ways we can do is get kids to colorize these photographs. So here I've taken that original photograph and then put some color to it. I've made his pants blue, I've made the musket brown, and the stock and the barrel black and silver. Made the windows colored in. Look at over here at these windows. The top window is normal, but the bottom one looks like the panes have been broken, and you notice that there's wood in there. I've added some green to the grass. The rocks are a gray color, and the ground is dirt. So you can see some of the work that was done to make this image here come to life, and it adds a whole new meaning to what this photograph might look like. But how do you do it? Well, the first thing we have to do is go out and get the photograph. So here I am on the Library of Congress website, and I searched for Gettysburg photographs, and I brought up my John Burns photograph. And here you see I have 4 different options. I have this small JPEG all the way up to this large TIFF file, 96 megabytes. I recommend that you either download this JPEG here at 176K or this TIFF image here, the 25 megabyte ones. The difference is, number one, is if your computer can't handle, is maybe older and doesn't have the resources and the power, you can download this JPEG one. It'll make it easier to work with. The problem is that you won't get as much detail when you zoom in. It'll be a little harder if you go in to zoom in really closely. This version of the TIFF image, while a little bit bigger and a little bit more takes a little bit more of your computer resources, allows you to zoom in and see images at greater detail. So I've went ahead and downloaded this 25 megabyte TIFF image, and I've loaded it up in my favorite program. And of course, my favorite paint program is GIMP. The reason why I like using GIMP is because it's free, and a lot of teachers might say, well, why aren't you using Photoshop? Well, the biggest reason is that Photoshop is expensive, and GIMP is free, and it's easy for kids to be able to use. So here you can see I have my image of John Burns that I've loaded up, and what we're going to be basically doing is creating layers for this photograph and then editing those layers and how they work. The first step that you want to do in GIMP is come up here to the image, come down to mode, and make sure that it's not on grayscale. Make sure it's on RGB. So go to image, go to mode, and make sure that RGB is selected. That allows you to work in color. The next step that we're going to do is we have to think and decide what we're going to actually work on. So let's just start with his pants. So I'm going to come over here to the color palette, and I'm going to select a color for his pants. Let's pick a nice blue color. Alright, I have my blue color that I want, and I'm going to go to Layer and then New Layer. I like to name my layers, so I'm going to call this one Pants, and then I'm going to select Foreground Color and click OK. Now it turned all blue. Don't panic. It's okay. Come over here to the Layers menu, make sure it's selected, right click, and then select Add Layer Mask. In the Layer Mask menu, select Black Full Transparency and click Add. Now, essentially what we've done is taken this original photograph and we put the blue on top of it. The layer mask sort of puts it underneath the original image. And then what we're going to do is we're going to cut holes in this layer mask to reveal the blue. And how we're going to cut holes through it is we're going to use the eraser tool. The first thing we need to do, though, is come up here to Mode, where it says Mode at the top of the screen. And in this drop down, select Overlay. So a couple different steps. I added a new layer, it's dark blue. I added a layer mask, and I selected Overlay Mode. Now, I'm going to come over and grab my magnifying glass and zoom in a little bit. I'm going to grab my eraser tool, and I can select the type of eraser tool that I want. So I can change the size. I'm going to move it up a little bit from 20, make it a little bit bigger. And I'm going to select that I want a solid one to edit it. Okay, then all I need to do is to come over here and start coloring in his pants. Now at this layer with the big eraser, I don't need to be real specific. I can just kind of take some wide swaths out, and I made a mistake, so I need to start over. Which means one of the things that I recommend that you do is that you pick up your mouse every once in a while and let go. I like to click and drag a lot. If you pick up your mouse, then it saves your progress, so that you don't have to go back and delete a whole thing like I just did. So just kind of get some ideas here. I'm just doing some big sweeping coloring of his pants. Okay, you kind of get the idea. Now I'm going to go ahead and get my magnifying glass, and I can zoom in. If I go back to my eraser, I can make it smaller now. And then I can come in here and get some of these finer details right in here. This is very time consuming, so it's not going to happen in one 40-minute period for your students. But the idea is that it gives them another way to be creative in the classroom and allows them to be able to create new images. And if they can justify why this guy's got purple pants or why he's got red pants or whatever, again, it's allowing them to be creative and express themselves in what they're doing. I look at these as old faded pants, that they're worked. You can see the tear in here. You can see the tear right along this line, and you can get kids to be able to do it. If you want, one of the things that I like to do too is if you change your brush to the one with the little feathered edges, you don't have to be as precise, because it allows you to be just a little bit more inaccurate, because the edges are not quite as frayed, or they're not quite as dark. But I can come in here and, using my various sizes of my paintbrush, be able to color in the rips in his pants, if you will. And you can see the different rips coming along here and whatnot. Okay, so you kind of get the idea. I'm going to zoom out here, and you'll see the effect that this has. So now you can see he's got pants on, colored pants. So let's try another one. We're going to color in his chair. So let's click on the color again, and let's pick a color for his chair. Let's pick a brown color. Okay. And I'm going to add a new layer. And I'm going to call this brown. Foreground color. Right click. Add a layer mask. Black full transparency. Add. Don't forget this mode step where you come up and overlay. Going to zoom in. That happens sometimes. Come over here. Click on the eraser tool, and let's see what we get. I need to make it a little bit bigger. Click on the eraser tool. Come down. And there we got a light oak chair, looks like. And you can change these colors if you'd like. It's completely up to you or your students and how they want the colors. Again, it's their picture. I'm just kind of give you an idea what this might look like once it's all said and done. And you can pick and choose your colors however you want. And I'm going to draw some lines here. I'm not being very specific for the purpose of this demonstration, but you sort of get the idea, and you get to look in and look at all these really cool details coming along in here. And you can blow these up and zoom in and look at each and every one of these little details. And you can see that as the shading goes, I'm able to get really close and be pretty specific on some of these colors. So now if I zoom out, you can see that his chair is starting to come to life. Let's do one more for this example. I'm going to do his hands and his face. So I click on the color. Now I'm going to pick color for his face. I'm going to click a layer, new layer. I'm going to call this the skin. I'm going to right click, add a layer mask, change my mode to overlay, zoom in on his hands, select my eraser, make it a little bit bigger, and then start to color in his hands. Now, depending on the image that you're using, you may have to change this a little bit. You may have to fix it, and you can simply delete the layer, or you can color in. There's other ways you can do it, coloring in the layer. I'm just kind of give you an idea of what this might look like. I'm not being very as specific as I could be here. Let's go up to his face. For example, as you get up into his hair, you really want to start being really careful. If you get around his eyes, if you want to color his eyes in, you can. Give him blue eyes or green eyes, whatever color eyes you think he might have. I'm just trying to give you an example of what this might look like or how you might do this process. So I'm just going to color his eyes in for the moment. And his ears, and fix his cheek right there, and zoom out. And there, really quickly, you can start to see how this might look as you finish it up. So I got a lot of detail work to do here, but eventually you'll come up with something like this. So, and you can do this with any historical black and white photograph. So have fun and enjoy. Please share with me what you're doing in your classroom. If you have questions or would like to learn more, be sure to check me out over at teachthecivilwar.com.